Hello and welcome back to the Living with Loss podcast. Today I'm joined by the one and only Nana Susan in what will be a family edition. It's very nice to be sitting down with you or over Zoom to have this chat, to hopefully connect some groundworks and sort of discuss, a little bit about the passing that we face and come to somewhat of, well, not an agreement, but hopefully find some connection that, something that we agree with or find some common ground sort of thing. I mean, I know you've been looking forward to this, or,
I
when am
have.
I going to come on? So it's been nice to, have
Yeah,
a little chat with you today. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling very, very happy that you've asked me to come on.
Oh, look, we got a little
And
guest in the background there.
you're supposed to be in the other room. Oh, go away. And very excited that I've come on. I'm very, I don't know what to expect. So,
Yeah. Well, I just think it'll be quite nice because obviously we haven't had a proper chat like this. So
no, we haven't.
I think it'll be nice to hopefully just, see what we're both feeling and come to
I
some.
agree.
Well, obviously I want to start things off by, well, we both know the story and I think the guests as well also know somewhat of our story, but I think it would be interesting to hear from your perspective. So
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about, well, the loss that you faced and how from your view sort of thing, so I can sort of gauge an understanding, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how far you want me to go back, but knowing that Michelle had cancer and nearly 11 years ago when we were told, was a great shock to everybody,
Yeah.
and particularly me, because I've always had a cancer phobia,
Yeah.
but never had a reason for it. And we went on this journey for 11 years with mum, and inevitably, I knew what the outcome was going to be, but one is never prepared for that outcome. And as a mother that
Yeah.
has lost a child, it is awful, terrible. I don't know what word, I can't put it into words. Your heart's broken. You don't know where to put yourself, and you're trying to carry on the best way you can, but it's very difficult.
I think it's interesting. One of the things you said there was being a mother, because a lot of people definitely in the community, look towards myself, my brother, and my sister, feeling very saddened
Yes,
and sorry for us because we lost our mother, but at the same time you've
yes,
lost a daughter. And
yes.
how do you think the response was for that? Like, how do you feel your peers sort of interacted with you and sort of course, I I do feel like how people maybe interacted with both of us would have been very different, which I do find
Yeah.
somewhat interesting because maybe because I'm younger or I don't know, but like, how do you think that was sort of for you?
Well, I found that my very, very, very close friends who were with me during the whole journey with mum were there for me always, whether I wanted to talk, didn't want to talk, whatever I wanted to do, everybody was there for me. And at the same time, always asking about you, Ben, and Libby. But I completely get where you're coming from as your perspective of you've lost your mum, I've lost my daughter, and I think it is a different, very, very different feeling, very, very different feeling of that.
Yeah, well, it's not so much it's a different feeling. I think it's a sort of a completely different dynamic, whereas I'm expected to sort of grieve entirely. I think, well, definitely looking myself looking towards you, I feel like I had the perspective where, um, of course, I understood you lost someone, but it's very difficult for me to sort of get my head around that you might be grieving as well, sort of thing. So I do think
Yeah.
chats like this are, I
Oh,
guess, important because you develop some sort of groundwork and you come to
yeah.
hopefully an
I
understanding.
I agree, Joe, 100%, because communication, verbal communication is in my opinion, very, very important. But I also understand that not everybody can talk. Like I'm happy to talk about mummy. To me,
Yeah,
I can talk about her all day, and it's good for me. But I also appreciate where the three of you might not be able to talk, and I accept that and respect that.
yeah. No, completely. I think, Joe, it's weird because obviously I have this channel where I am talking about it, but I think it's a completely different dynamic where you're sitting in person and having an intimate discussion with someone who completely relates to the same scenario that you do. So I think that's probably
Yeah.
why we haven't, um, discussed it as much. Although I think that was the case for me over the years, though. To be honest,
Yes.
I d- I
Yes.
think especially in the old Bellman household, it's very the cancer talk wasn't something that came to fruition. Like it wasn't something that was spoken about. I don't know why that is. I think maybe could that be the same for other households? I don't know, but I definitely do think there was this unspoken grief that
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree. I think every household's different. I think in the case of your household, at the time of the beginning, you were all a hell of a lot younger, and it was very difficult to possibly have that discussion with you at that age. And we were very optimistic then as to the future and what was going to be.
yeah,
Um, so, but I know households that don't discuss things at all, that
yeah.
won't discuss it.
Well, you mentioned something optimism, and obviously, this was very, it, it was very. I guess that was Mum's way of looking at life, and she definitely had a somewhat optimistic outlook. And the idea that she may lose her life one day wasn't something she ever really thought about. I was wondering if ever at all you guys sat down and had a conversation about um that the eventuality that something could happen along the lines, because I know I didn't. I know um well, I mean, why would I? Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't be something that I would bring up. I
Yeah.
was wondering if
Well, I I knew because I attended the majority of mummy's appointments, and obviously I knew everything that was going on. But as far as I was concerned, mummy was a fighter. She was positive, and there is no way at that time, a few years back, that there was any talk of anything like that. There was only
yeah,
positive talk of, if that's not good, we're going on to that, and this moving forward there, and moving forward there,
yeah.
and there was always something we were moving forward to. And there was no at that time no talk of the worst scenario.
No, Mum definitely had like a sense of practicality. I think um she always looked for option A, and if A wasn't viable, then she'd go for B, C, D, all the way down the
Absolutely.
alphabet until she found something that
Yes.
worked for her. I think that definitely had a strain on us because there was just such a lack of certainty in our life, from the perspective that we never knew what was around the corner, whether or not she would be fl- flying off to Mexico for, I don't know,
Yeah.
6 weeks, or going to
Yes. Yeah.
Switzerland, or like there was no sense of certainty in our lives. So I do think that definitely impacts a young mind. I mean, we were, this was something that we knew all too well. It was something we dealt with, you know from Libby's age, as young as 3 or 4, 2 even.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
so it definitely, when you have that trauma in your life, it does, well, from a sense, I think it does change you. It changes it changes your path, it changes the destination, your journey, all of that. It evolves and sort of changes over time. I don't want to think that if mum never got ill, where would I be? Because that, thinking like that is it, it's just an improbability. Like, but it,
Yes.
do it's weird though. Like, whenever you went to, say, doctor's appointments, how did you feel helpless? Like, did you feel like there was nothing you could do, or did you also?
Well, I was. You know me, Joe.
Of
I'm
course, I
on the
know
ball.
you.
The whole time I'm on the
She's
ball there,
there. She's the
and
governor.
I would always phone up before Mum went, or I would always make sure that what was ahead, what was ahead. And you know, generally there was Daddy, myself, Auntie Nick on that appointment, so the three of us all heard what was going on, so we were 100% sure of, we were all hearing the same thing. And there were plenty of times when the news was okay, plenty of times when the news was okay, but boy did we know it when the news wasn't okay,
Yeah,
and the time came for, that's it, that's it.
yeah. And when you
And
say you knew the news wasn't okay, I think it was something you knew even before a doctor's meeting. Like it wasn't because, you know, you could see the daily um habits that mum had. So it wasn't something that, you know, it wasn't just a doctor telling you, oh, this is, you know,
oh
the blood
no,
results. It was you know, you could tell from
you could
just
tell mum by Mummy's appearance,
yeah,
everything, what was going on. You didn't have to be a doctor or a genius to know what was going on.
yeah. I mean, what I always found remarkable was her ability to just, you know, push everything to the side and still be a mother, you know, still
You
um
did, yeah.
I I found that, you know, looking back at it now was something that, you know, that I just expected, but in
She,
reality she had a lot on her plate and she
mm,
put all that to the side for us sort of thing.
oh, she did. She did. She could be really, really ill in bed and go out and pick you up or go out and do something because that's what she wanted to do. And
Yeah,
nothing was going to stop her from doing what she wanted to do for you three.
yeah, definitely. I mean, she definitely had that strong-winded mindset. I think that probably is what, you know, lengthened her journey. You know, it's definitely
Yes,
maybe had she not had such a strong vision and such a strong will to live, maybe she wouldn't have lasted as long.
I agree. Mummy always had, she loved life. She loved parties. She loved her family. She just loved
Yeah,
going out, and she loved Daddy. She just loved life and holidays and everything. And all
yeah,
that love pushed her into keeping it as much as she
yeah,
could, keeping it.
definitely. I mean, I do remember though, like even um, you know, maybe a week, 10 days before she passed. I remember she messaged me and she just sort of said like, even then she had the mindset that she wasn't going to pass. You know, she was saying that I'm feeling quite hopeful. She was saying
Mm,
you know, she had a chat with, I think she said, Nicole, and how, you know, she feels like it might be positive. So even then, where, you know,
yeah,
she was coming to, you know, towards the end of her days, she still had that undeniable, you know, positivity that she could turn it around, which is
that's right.
remarkable, really.
It is. She was, Mummy was a remarkable person, and very, very hard. Hard. It's hard to watch your daughter, who was full of life and everything, struggle for everything. And
Yeah,
but she did the best she could,
yeah,
and endured her treatments and everything that had to be, and she just wanted to focus on getting well.
yeah. At what point do you think you kind of, in your mind, did you think you looked at it and sort of like assessed it like, all right, this isn't too good, like, you know, that you didn't, you kind of feared for the worst sort of thing, you know what I mean?
I think about I always had that in the back of my mind, Joe. Anyway, I
Yeah, you're a
always
bit of a
felt,
warrior, aren't you?
well, a little itsy bitsy bit.
Yeah,
But I always felt that whenever I was in Mummy's company, we were driven and driven, and with, you know, everything. But when I got home, my thoughts weren't good thoughts. I would think that, you know, this is not going to last forever, Susan. This is not going to last forever. You know, you've got to hold on to what
yeah,
we've got now. Um, and she did 11 years. But I the back of my mind, I would think the last 6 months, I obviously didn't feel comfortable about what was going on.
Yeah.
And
It's
when she went into hospital 3 weeks before she passed, I actually didn't think, I thought she would be coming out. I didn't think that she wouldn't be coming out at that point. At that point.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I was of the same opinion because we had, we had the bar mitzvah. Um, so because obviously I was at university and then I came back for
Yeah.
this bar mitzvah. I think it was October the 5th, and I yeah, like obviously mum wasn't, she she was in hospital at the time, but like
Yeah.
when she was there, I just thought, oh, like um yeah, she's probably not feeling too great, or you know how she popped in for like hydration or fluids or whatever. So
Yeah.
it wasn't
Yeah.
to me, it was just
That,
like, oh, like a little um period, a rest period, you could say.
yes.
It wasn't really until even we had like the bar mitzvah that night, and it was just
Yes.
me, Libby, and Ben, no
Ben.
dad. And I think that was sort of when it was
Mm.
like come like that's when we started or definitely I started thinking about it. I don't know if I was quite oblivious, or maybe I chose to be oblivious. I definitely
Mm.
probably chose the latter. Probably why I stayed at uni for quite a lot of time. Um,
Yes.
there was definitely a moment that I found quite traumatic in my first year when I came back from uni, and I this one particular day, mum was just having an extremely bad day, and she was just
Yeah.
going crazy. Like she was, clearly in a lot of pain, but she was like, you know, she was like almost suicidal in what she was saying. I need to, I'm gonna poke my eyes out. She was just going mental,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
remember like sitting with her, like just trying to talk to her, but it was like mad. And then the day later she felt better. She was like it was a release of, but I think when I saw that, for me it was like a game changer almost. It was like, oh, like you know it's a bit. It was a lot. Um, and I think that's when I started probably thinking about it more. You could say.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you three have gone through with this is horrible, hard. There isn't a word to explain it. And my thoughts have always, however much pain I've been in, my thoughts have always been with you three and Dad. I don't know whether you feel the same, but I can truly say that I feel that I have the beginnings of quite a good relationship with you, Ben and Libby. And I feel that you, Ben and Libby, will contact me if you're worried about something or something's going on, or for a little chat, see how you are. That's starting to happen now. I don't know
Yeah.
how you feel about
I
it.
mean, no, I do agree. I think my I'm gonna throw something out there. Do you think, because obviously one thing I noticed is obviously you spoke to Mum every day, so you definitely you called her every day, maybe 3 times a day, like that was just
Oh,
very.
yes.
Do you think, because you don't have that, do you think you are trying to contact us more to try and fill that void almost?
No, not at all. No. For me, it shifted for worry. I
Yeah,
worry. It's not that communication, because I can speak to anybody 100 times a day, because as you know, I like to talk. I'm a talker, but I've never ever felt that I'm using you kids as a substitute. My reasons of wanting to know what's going on is purely because I love you and care, and I know that Mummy would want me to do that. I would
yeah,
want to know. I want to know what's going. I'm not young. I'm old, but I feel as though I have young thoughts and appreciate and respect your generation.
yeah,
We've always been close like that. I mean, who cares? I listen to all the swearing in the house. It's
Oi,
part and
oi.
parcel. It's part and parcel, and I go with that because that's it. But no, I do not phone you three because of that. I phone you three because I care and want to know what you're doing, your interests, how you're feeling. Are you sad? Can I
Yeah.
help you?
No, I understand that. Definitely, I think food for thought there. I do think that loss affects people in many different ways. And the ways from these chats that I've had, it's been quite an interesting perspective to really gauge someone's viewpoint and see how things in people's minds really differ. And I think definitely
Yes,
even more so from the same, obviously we have the same loss, but the way we face it and the way we go about our daily activities in our lives is clearly going to differ. Uh,
absolutely.
how have you sort of handled your grief, if you have at all, really? I mean, yeah,
Well, I'm having, it took me some time, but I decided that I was going to have some bereavement counselling
okay,
because I wasn't coping. I wasn't coping. And it just was, I think the support of my friends and being close to Daddy. Daddy was very close with us. It is close. And would come and see us all the time. And it was very difficult because then we were in lockdown, but he used to come and see us all the time. Um, but there were plenty of days where I stuck myself in bed with a duvet over my head and I didn't want to know. And
yeah,
that's fine. That is fine because I'm allowed to do that. I'm
yeah,
allowed. And then I'd go and see Mummy, who's round the corner. I'd go and see her, take a coffee, sit on the bench and just sit. But even now, we're what are we, October, November, December, what, 14 months on, whatever we are, it I revisit everything quite a lot. My mind goes back to the 3 weeks she had in hospital. My mind goes back to all different things. Um, and I wake up and I sometimes have a good day. I wake up and I sometimes have a bad day. I can't I can't lie. That's the truth. I am hurting and I want I want mummy back, obviously, and
yeah,
that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. But I think, and this is the truth. If I knew that you, Ben, and Libby were not okay, because you're not going to be okay. It's going to take a long time, but you needed me, I would feel better. But the bereavement counselling is I'm having is helping me.
mm. Sorry, everything you've said is completely good, but it's you're like a builder working in the kitchen. I can just hear someone plodding away.
Les, can you stop it? Yeah, go on. Sorry, go
No,
on.
yeah, I think obviously, do you think you are allowing yourself to grieve? Because from what I'm understanding, you're worrying about us a lot of the time, and
Yes,
of course, as our nana, it's very understandable, but you're entitled to to grieve as well. Do you
yes.
do you think how do you think you've allowed yourself to grieve? Like, what do you think you've done?
I haven't really, Joe. I haven't really. I haven't. I don't think I've really allowed myself to grieve
Yeah,
because I think once. I mean, I've had plenty of episodes where I've just lost it and let it all out and whatever. I've done that, but overall, I've tried to carry on as much as I can, but I think you're right. I've got a lot of grieving yet to do. But I found a very lovely counsellor. We do it online, and I quite look forward to speaking to her. And we speak about things all the time. And she's trying to give me the tools to help me. But I've never been the type of person that puts myself first. And this is where I go wrong. I'm so concerned about everybody else.
yeah,
Myself, I'm bottom of the list.
yeah. I think when it comes to something like this, it's when you have to really evaluate and allow yourself to care for your own needs. Definitely something I've
Yes.
come to terms with. You know, as much as there are people who are hurting, there are the people who may need your kindness, but at the same time, you're the only person who can be kind to yourself. And if you're not kind to yourself, you don't look after yourself, then it's just going to be an everlasting circle of self-doubt, grief, and
You're
all of
right.
that.
You're so right. But one has to learn how to do that, and I don't know how to do that at the moment because I've never been that type of a person. I've never had to. I've always been a person that puts myself on the bottom. But I'm hoping that with my counselling, I will try and work my way up a bit so that I'm more careful and loving to myself and put myself first, which I
And
find is a problem.
do you find counselling helpful?
I've always been against counselling. I've always
Why?
hated counselling because when I used to go to High, I could tell them more than they could tell me because there wasn't anything that they could tell me or help me with. There wasn't. But it's a different scenario now. Now mummy's not with us anymore, and I'm lucky enough to have a counsellor that I get on with, because otherwise I find if I know more than them, what's the point? It rubs me up the wrong way. But I've got somebody here that gets me, and she's been very helpful to me, and I like speaking to her. So I'm hoping, it's early days, and I'm hoping that we'll carry on until I can learn to put myself first and look after myself.
Yeah. I do want to quickly bring it back to the idea of us being in a pandemic, because you
Yes,
know, obviously grief is one thing, but then to be um dealt this other idea that you're isolated, and if you go into the shops and interact with someone, you might get COVID, and that could be, you know obviously you're
yeah.
only young, but but yeah, like it's that definitely has made. Well, do you think that's inevitably it has, but how has that
Yes.
changed? Well,
Yes,
how's it?
it's changed everything, Joe. It's changed
Yeah,
everything because I used to go out with a small group of friends, husbands and wives, for lunch, and we would laugh, we would forget ourselves, we would laugh, and we would enjoy ourselves. And that's stopped. It's all stopped. So one has more time on their hands to think, because there's nothing to do, nothing to do. So that's been taken away from me, and it's given me more time to think. And for me, I don't know whether it's such a good thing, because I miss our friends. I miss, they always used to make me laugh, and we used to just have good times together.
yeah.
But now you
No, of
can't.
course
So it's
not.
this pandemic, besides has frightened me, is hasn't played a good part for my grief and getting over it.
Yeah, I mean, because one thing that definitely think is important, of course, everyone grieves differently, but one thing that I do think is important is, you can't isolate forever, and you can't lock yourself in a cave and stay hidden forever, because, like as a cave is, things are dark and when no light is allowed in. But
Exactly,
this
exactly.
isolation, you are isolating, and you don't have that freedom to go out with
No,
your mates, or I don't
yeah,
know, go to the
even
dance nightclubs like you would do.
oh, boogie the night away. No, I mean, before we had the pandemic, I would come over to you lot more on a Friday night. We'd have
Yeah,
Friday night dinner together. Sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't because of circumstances. And then Libby would go up to her room, and I'd 9 times out of 10 go and lie on Libby's bed, and we'd have a little kiss and cuddle and a little chat. We can't do that anymore.
yeah.
It's finished, and that way I don't have that connection, that closeness, except for this what we're doing now, FaceTime, Zoom,
With your
and
awful connection.
my awful connection. But
Exactly.
I hope it's been okay, this connection for this
No, it'll
podcast.
be it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Um, what do you think Mum would have made of all this?
She would have hated it. I
She
mean,
would have, wouldn't she?
Oh, mummy wouldn't have coped. Mummy wouldn't have coped because it would have taken a lot of things away from her.
Yeah,
And Dad and I often say that mummy wouldn't have coped under these circumstances. She wasn't well enough to cope, and it would have been awful, absolutely awful.
yeah. I mean, you know what? It was throughout the years, she just had so much to deal with. You know, it
Yeah,
was whether I think definitely a turning point for me, very long ago, but was the point where she started having stomach ulcers and she couldn't eat,
yep,
and it was like every so often, once she had food, she would just be completely sick everywhere.
yes.
Um, and I think that was definitely quite a destructive period. I think that was definitely not a downturn, but it was very hard to
Hor-
watch from a young age. As a mother, how
yeah,
was that for you?
horrible, horrible. Because unfortunately, mummy had a treatment 6 months, a year prior to that, which affected her, made her have ulcers, which she didn't know about, and that caused in itself extreme pain and anxiety. And we were more like a day hospital, having treatment for the day because of the ulcers than not,
Yeah,
because it was and that was purely really to do with the treatment she had.
yeah,
um yeah, but it was very uncomfortable. It was awful, and she was having a lot of sedation, to go into hospital to look down to see what's happening and how they can help her with it. But it wasn't a very good outcome with those ulcers.
no, not at all. Um, it's I actually wrote something like this in one of my poetry. I said something like, chemo is a friend with motive so villainy, and the reason I said that was because it's the treatment that she needed and that was going to help her, but at the same time, it was so internally destructive that it just
Yeah,
did have so many secondhand consequences that ultimately definitely lessened her um her her sustainability of life. I mean, one thing I remember, New Year's Eve must have been 3 years ago. We were in South Africa,
yes,
and
mummy was ill then.
yeah, and like it was definitely something you'd look at, how even on holidays where there was other families and other friends, even points like that, there would be periods where she would be in her room, getting medical treatment on holiday.
I
Um,
know, I know. Yeah,
I think it's very hard for someone who doesn't experience that as a, to really understand how upsetting that is to see. It's very hard to people my own age, older.
yeah,
It's something I grew up with. So I don't think of course it was, upsetting, but it wasn't it wasn't like, I think if someone who'd never experienced something like that all of a sudden had, their mum being sick after every meal and, you know, crying and being suicidal because she was in so much pain.
pain.
I think that would be incredibly hard to deal with, but because that was my everyday, it just felt
Exactly,
quite normal.
exactly. Because I know that every time mummy went on holiday, not every time, but she was ill most holidays. She was ill most holidays.
Yeah,
And that's why I always think of you kids, because it's a big deal. It's a big deal for somebody like myself to digest, let alone you three, and living in the house and one thing and another. How you three coped with it? It couldn't. It must
yeah.
have been horrendous.
But like I said, I just think because that was our everyday, it wasn't something explicitly we really discussed or visualized being anything other than the internal thing that we faced. I mean, I definitely remember seeing a few people over the years, whether they were not a therapist or whether they were just healers or whatever you want to call them. I
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
remember them always asking about they always use the same term, the elephant in the room, being obviously mum's
Yes.
illness. But it was just
Yes.
nothing I really spoke about, because not because I didn't want to talk about it. Maybe I didn't, but I think it was because it just felt so normal that um I didn't really fully examine it. Like, I didn't think, to me, yeah, mum was ill, but like I didn't get upset over it because it was so normal for me, you know?
I agree, and I understand completely. Whereas for me, because I knew a lot more,
Yeah.
it obviously had a completely different effect on me. And I only wanted for you children to be protected, actually, be it right or wrong. I didn't really want you to know anything but what you had to know. But there came a point where obviously then you had to know. But you grew up with it. So to you, it was like normal.
Yeah, I like is what I was saying. It just felt like an everyday, if I came home from school and mum was in hospital, that wasn't like, oh my God, what's happening? That was just like,
Yeah, yeah, normal.
yeah, fair enough. Like, I'll just see
Yeah,
her
she was.
tomorrow.
Yeah, if she was going to have an overnight stay, you
Yeah.
probably wouldn't think twice about it.
No. I mean, definitely back to what you were saying about holidays. I, I remember um this was the trip to Israel in the summer before she
Yes,
passed.
yes.
And she often used to do this, but whenever we went on planes, and I laugh, not laugh about this now, but she
Mm,
used to wear face masks, yeah, and
yeah,
she wore them before anything, like before obviously it was a
yes,
thing. Like, she would wear them because, I don't know, and I remember always thinking, like, what was she doing? She's such a freak. Like, why is she wearing a face mask?
yeah.
Um, and like, here we are now, popping
Or
down to
wearing
the
face
shop,
masks. Yeah,
whipping out the face mask or like things
yeah.
like that.
Now you're not normal if you don't have a face
Yeah,
mask
exactly.
on.
Like, yeah, if you don't have one on, you're a nut. You're a nut job.
Yeah,
So I do find that quite funny because, yeah, I remember just that little trick. Especially, she'd just slap it on, and she'd always be like this.
yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Do you know what I was thinking the other day? And it made me quite laugh quite much. I think she just had treatment or something, and there was something wrong. She had like stomach problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we went to see like a Harry Potter film. I think it was Deathly Hallows Part 1.
Mm.
And during this film, she farted quite a lot during the screening because she had a bad stomach. And there was a guy, and she just whispered, "You're gonna have to say it was you." And there was a guy next to me, like proper looking like, "What? Like, that's awful." So I was like, "I'm so sorry." Like, man, it was like I'm
God.
just had bad food in the car.
Let's blame Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, I'll just take one for the team."
Oh my God. Good for
Yeah,
you. Good for you.
it was quite a funny one. Did
Mm.
anything like that happen to you? Not that specific thing, but like any.
Oh God. Often we were in the car together doing something and stop the car. I feel sick or stop the car. I'm gonna whatever.
Yeah.
Um, Plenty. I mean, obviously not for this time, but I've got plenty of stories to tell with mummy, which were good and bad, but overall, good
Yeah, more
because
good
mummy
than
and I
bad.
are more good. Because mummy and I, obviously, you have your good and bad times with your kids, but on the whole, we got on very well together. We did. We got on very well together, and yes, yes, my darling boy.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, she got on with everyone though, didn't she? She had that
Oh,
remarkable.
mummy had so many friends, and she used to tell me, like there wasn't a day went past where I think Caroline Swain would send her this lovely little text with lovely words in it, and her friends were fantastic, very supportive, were always coming, giving her things and making sure she was all right. And
Yeah,
also, I have to mention that the community where you live, there was a time at the beginning when mummy first started treatment, everybody was fighting to get on this list of bringing food round. This
Yeah.
the community of Brooklands, I think it was at the
Yeah.
time, and where you live, there was
Yeah.
loads of people. At 5 o'clock every day, there was a meal being brought to the door,
I
and
do
I couldn't
remember
get
that.
over that. I tell you, Joe, I couldn't get over that. I didn't know how to thank people for what they were doing. I thought that was just an amazing gesture.
Yeah. I do remember that. It was quite lovely.
Yes.
Always coming back. I think, well, obviously at Brooklands, I was 9 or 10, but coming home to like a banquet every night. Some of
Oh,
the food obviously was
yes.
questionable, but some was
Yeah,
nice. So it was, um,
definitely.
yeah.
But
So it was,
looking at it of how they wanted to get together and make sure that this was going on, it was just amazing. Amazing
yeah,
what people do.
yeah, 100%. I think definitely people do, come together and sort of help out. And the thing is, I don't, how mum, obviously she accepted help, but it was, I do think she was quite independent, and in the sense that she did want to go about things alone a lot of the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. She did, but there's different times. Maybe there might have been a time when she was having treatment and she knew that in 2 days' time she was going to be very ill. Then that would be the time when she'd accept help. And then when another day went past, she was back on track. Then off she went. Brent Cross, here, there, you name it, she went. And
Yeah,
I mean, even when we went to hospital visits, there was no stopping her going shopping. There was a shopping trip after the hospital, whatever we did, or before a shopping trip.
yeah,
Um, Always raring to go.
100%. She was just, I think, but it comes down to that idea that she wanted to make the most of the hours, each hour in the day, every second, every minute. I think something a lot of people take for granted, life, and um she didn't. I think you know I think she had an intelligent assessment of the world and sort of managed to live each day as it should be, sort of thing. I think that's something um
She did,
that a lot of people do take life for granted, in the sense that
100%.
and
Yeah.
I don't, and she definitely didn't.
No, because unfortunately, for a long time, she knew what was going on. And she did make every hour count.
Yeah,
Whereas, I mean, all of us walking around, we do take everything for granted, everything for
yeah,
granted. Me, not so much now, because I've been through quite a lot of things and I don't take a lot of things for granted anymore. But for a young guy like yourself, you've got all your life in front of you
yeah,
and you will have a lovely life. Um, it's a different way of looking at it, isn't it? From a young person's perspective to my perspective.
yeah. I think when you, well, definitely from my perspective, I don't know if this was what you were getting onto, and I don't think you were, but the one thing that does obviously upset me a lot is, you said you got your whole life ahead of you, and which is true,
Mm.
but without a
Mummy,
mother.
yeah.
Yeah. Um.
And I think about that 24/7. We don't discuss it, you and I, because we
No.
don't. You know that.
You're lucky we're
But
talking about it now. So.
oh, I know that.
Mhm.
But we're talking, you're interviewing me. And I
Kills.
think I think about that all the time. I think about that all the time. That's why, going back to the other thing, as long as I'm well and keep going, I want to be not your go-to person, but your person. Nobody's ever going to take over mummy, but somebody that you know and love and loves you, that
Is
you
this
would
you
come and
trying to
talk
set
to.
a business pitch? Trying to pitch?
Oh,
Because it sounds
yes,
like it. It sounds like you're
yes.
pitching yourself.
But yeah, that's it. Mm. I mean,
No.
that's true. I think about it all the time for you three, all the time, Joe.
Yeah.
And I can't walk in your shoes. You can't walk in my shoes. But my mother died when she was 69. I mean, I know
Yeah.
mummy was young, but that was also 69 was devastating for me, but mummy was too young, too young.
Yeah, yeah. Just unfairly robbed, you could say.
And how
Um,
do you feel about what you just said
about what?
about growing up and having a long and lovely life without your mummy?
Well, it's inevitably going to be difficult.
Yes.
There's no way about it. I don't think. Um, life will have its ups and downs, but I do think, my kid's not ever going to meet her, or,
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely all these events that I wish, this journey that I'm on now, like, that's not something she got to see. Like, she didn't get
No.
to see, the things that I've done in this short period of time. And that definitely, she would have loved it. She would have
You would have loved
smashed
it.
it on Facebook. She'd been like, "This is my boy. Oh, look, he's
Oh yeah, she would have been so proud, and
I
she is
know.
so proud, so proud.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I
that's
do
all.
like to
That's
think she's listening, you know.
oh, I do. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I think that she's there all the time, and I think with you three kids, she's going to be what I would call quelling, which is a Jewish expression of how you're doing and all that you're doing. And I think that's what you aim for, to make your mummy proud, and you are.
Um, Question. I don't know too much about your beliefs, but how has your relationship with God, in a sense, like, do you have
Go on.
one?
Go
Gone.
on, go on, finished. Finished.
Really?
I used to enjoy going to shul on Yontas with Papa Les. We used to go to shul. I used to enjoy it and whatever. But now I'm afraid there is no way I would step foot into a shul because I don't want to.
And why is that? Like, why has your views changed?
Because of the journey I had with mummy.
Yeah.
Was a very intense journey, and I just think that it's cruel, and it's what is God? We all say, "Oh, please God, that'll be okay," or please God," but
I mean,
what
you
is
say
it?
it all
Where
the
is
time.
God? Yeah, of course I
God
do,
forbid.
but it's God forbid, please God. And in fact, I had a long conversation with at the time my rabbi
Yeah.
about going to shul, and he said to me, "You don't have to go to shul, Susan. You don't have to go to shul." I'm not a big shul goer anyway, but
The
this
rabbi
has
said that.
just. I spoke to the rabbi. Yeah, my rabbi.
Oh, okay.
And he said to me, "You don't have to go to shul. You don't have to go to shul, But no, that question which you just asked me is no, I have no feelings towards God now at all, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever.
I
I'll
know.
still say please God, and I'll still do that. But
Yeah, I mean, before, what's your little phrase? Do give your little phrase before we go to bed? What is it? Go on.
oh, what? Good night, God bless, and I love you.
Yeah,
What?
you're
Yeah, good night.
blessed.
Oh yes, yes. Good night, God bless.
Your
Yes,
trademark
absolutely.
phrase.
Yes, absolutely, and I'll always say that. But ask me to go to shul, and the word will be no.
Yeah.
I wouldn't stop anybody else from going to shul, but I will not. I don't want to go, and I didn't feel like that before.
So is that so? When you say your beliefs, is that because you don't believe in a god, or is that deciding that there is a god, but he's done all this, so I'm not gonna.
He's let me
Res-
down. Yeah, I feel let down.
you feel
I
let
feel
down.
let. Yeah, I feel let down. Yeah, I do. I feel let down, and I'm not saying there isn't a God, but I just personally feel let down, and I will not be going to shul. I
Okay.
mean, if somebody got bar mitzvahed and I was invited, which we're in the pandemic, so I'm not, I will go to shul on that, but not for any other reason.
So what's your view on the? I had a chat once, and someone said how um God teaches, everything happens so God can teach us a lesson, and you know there's a reason why he would have why this would have happened from his perspective. But what's your view
Yes.
behind that idea?
the only way I can say, I don't know. I don't know. I can only but tell you, just taking it away from that slightly, the view on this pandemic and what's going on with the corona and the COVID, right? Is to me this is like an invisible war, and every 100 years or so something happens and it eliminates a lot of people. But this is like a
Yeah,
silent war which we can't see.
yeah.
Um, but um, I don't know, Joe. I just feel that as far as mummy is concerned, and the experience we had, and what we had to go through, and the pain and everything, and the suffering, is
It was a lot,
no, not
wasn't
for
it?
mummy. Too much, too much. But mummy had a lot of friends, unfortunately, that are not with us anymore,
Yeah,
and they're all resting in the same place actually, and watching them, who they died before mum, all their
yeah.
journeys and everything. It's just horrible, horrible.
How do you think when um a friend or someone in the community, when they did pass of cancer, how
Yeah,
do you think mum had a realization that you do?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the people that she knew that had died, she was quite close to,
Mm.
and obviously knowing that you've got the same problem, it has to bear thoughts in your head of whatever at some point, because one of her friends, Danielle, also went lasted quite a long time, and you watch along the way what happens, and then that one's gone, and then that one's gone, and then that one's gone, and you can't. I don't think mum could help but feeling, when's it going to be me. But
Yeah.
she
Do
falls
you think
on.
she had that though?
Had what?
Do you think she had that view, like questioning, um, when's it gonna be me? Because you know,
Well, I don't know. I don't think she consciously had that, because we were always on to the next thing, and Daddy was always on to, right. We've got this. We've got Plan A. We've got Plan B. We've got Plan C, and it's all
yeah,
taking place. But then there came a time when it's out of your hands.
yeah,
Everything that you've achieved to do and keep going is out of your hands. It's finished. And but I don't see. Not that I think I discussed it many times with mum, but I don't think when somebody she knows very well has passed away from the same thing she's got. What do you think?
yeah,
She's had. Do you know? She might not have put loads of time into thinking about it, but it was there to think about.
yeah. There's obviously like that deep rooted knowledge that they both have. They were part of the same horrible disease, and they're part of this same community in a sense. And I
Yes,
think, of
yes.
course, that definitely is something that she probably did question a lot. Is there anything is there anything, well, what do you miss most about mum?
Everything. Her presence, her laughter, her telling me off, um,
Yeah,
everything. It's a great big miss, because um, we could speak to each other on the phone 6 times a day. There wasn't or she'd say
yeah,
to me, "Why are you phoning me? We've just spoken to each other." It was me actually doing all the phoning, unless she wanted something. But
yeah,
then in the latter times, mummy would phone and hide herself in a cupboard and phone me about 11 o'clock at night to say, "I don't feel well," and we'll talk for an hour and talk it
yeah,
through, and then she'd go back to bed. But what do I miss about mum? Everything.
yeah,
She was a very vibrant presence. She was the life and soul. She would walk into a room and there she was.
yeah,
And that's it, everything, Joe.
yeah. I mean, it was mesmerizing, the sense that when she had that unique ability to just walk into a room and sort of
Light the room up.
attention. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and it was just the sense that she had this huge capability that she also cared for every single person, not just
She
her
did.
family and
Yeah.
it was friends, or she could be a complete stranger in a restaurant, was upset, and mum would go over and have a chat with them, like
100%.
that. Obviously that's just human nature, but at the same time she had so much to deal with that.
Yeah, but mummy, but not everybody would do that. Not
Yeah,
everybody would go over if they saw somebody. Mummy did. Mummy would go over, and I think being unwell makes you realise, and you have compassion for people, and you go over and you speak to them. Mummy did all that, and she's missed by everybody. Her friends that might call me or text me, oh, I miss Michelle because she does this for me. She was my person. She was my
yeah,
this. She was everything.
she was. She
She
is.
was a
I don't like to say was, but
No, I agree. I don't like to say, I don't like to say passed away. I have to say she
so what do you
died.
say?
Died.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know. It's just my little thing. I say died as opposed to passed away. I don't know. I don't like that word passed away. I don't know why. It's just my thing.
Yeah, I guess each to their own. Is it one thing I do feel though, in a sense, um, what back a little bit back to what you were saying before, that saddens me, is how there won't be any new memories that I'll make. I'm looking at my phone, and seeing our texts and seeing the pictures and videos, and of course they're all very nice, but like it's just the
Yes,
fact that that's it. It's like a finished product sort of
it
thing.
isn't. No, it isn't, Joe. Because what do you think you're doing now? What you're
Mm,
doing now is by not necessarily with me, but with
yeah.
your friends that are in the same situation as yourself. This part of your life that you've chosen to do is carrying it on.
Hmm.
And by it's like I never have a problem about talking with mum to my friends. I always bring her in the conversation.
Yeah.
It's keeping her going. It's keeping her memory alive the whole time.
Yeah, I think that's important. Definitely for me, anyway. Definitely a huge motivation behind this is the idea that um, she's too important to not be spoken about and not be
Absolutely.
um, yeah, just constantly brought to the light. Um,
And you should always do that, because you say you can't make new memories. Well, you can't make new memories, no, but you can keep her going by what you are doing.
Look at you coming on my show and dishing out all the advice. Here she is,
Sorry, sorry, it's
the
your
wise
nana
owl.
being nana.
She's
It's
coming
your
out
nana
here.
being nana.
You might as well take over my job.
No, you do a
Be
good job.
unemployed
I'm
next
very proud
week.
of you.
No, I'm joking.
No, you do a good job, Joe, and it's an honour for me to be here talking to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a lovely, long and needed chat. I do want to sort of say that I do think in life getting out your comfort zone and doing things you aren't entirely comfortable is really important. And of course,
Yes,
I've stressed before on the channel how you know this would have been a particularly difficult chat for me. But I think a difficult and yet a rewarding chat it has been. So I do want to say in life, I
good.
think you should get out your comfort zone. Before we do
Thank you.
end this
Yeah.
chat, because I don't know how much your
Mm.
internet connection can hold on for.
I
Gonna
agree. I
you're gonna
agree. Yeah.
you're gonna have to call Virgin or BT to get that sorted. I always like to finish on one note, which is if you could chat to mum again, what would you say? Like if you could like just have a conversation, what would you let her know?
I love you, my dancing queen, and I will always be there for your children and Jeff, and look after them. And I know that you're around me, because everywhere I go, there's a feather, there's a this, there's a that. And be peaceful, because you know I'm going to be there.
Very nice, lovely. Well,
Thank you.
thank you for coming on.
I just want you to find your truth and stick to it. I know you'll be okay. I know it. In the bottom of my heart, I know it. I love you, Papa.